I want to welcome everyone to our August Board of Education meeting. And this time I'd like to ask Ms. Caitlin Bennett, if she would, to lead us in prayer in our Pledge of Allegiance.
My heads, Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for all of us here today on this meeting. I ask that you guide all the decision-making, discussions, and comments on today's meeting. And I ask you to continue to strengthen and bless us all. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kate. This time we want to look at our consent items. Tonight the consent items consist of the agenda, the minutes of the July 17th, 2018 meeting, fundraisers from the elementary school, overnight field trips, which consist of FCCLA State Executive Council meeting, August 23rd to 25th, FCCLA Fall Leadership Conference, Covington, Georgia, September 11th through 13th, FCCLA Fall Rally, Perry, Georgia, October 9 through 10, National FFA Convention, Indianapolis, Indiana, October 23rd through 27th, FCCLA National Cluster Meeting, Louisville, Kentucky, November 9-12. Winter FCCLA State Executive Council and FCCLA Board Meeting, Covington, Georgia, November 29, December 1st. February FCCLA State Executive Council and State Officer Candidate Interviews, January 31st to February 2nd, 2019. FCCLA Day at the Capitol, Atlanta, Georgia, February 10 through 11, 2019. FCCLA State Leadership Meeting and State Star Events, Atlanta, Georgia, March 14 through 17, 2019. FFA Convention, Macon, Georgia, April 25th to 27th, 2019. FCCLA National Leadership Conference, Anaheim, California, June 29th to July the 5th, 2019. Easy calendar for our FCCLA. Right, need a motion to accept?
I make a motion to approve it.
We have a motion by Mr. Cox to approve the consent items. We have a second by Mr. Madison. All in favor? Unanimous. This time, we open the floor to public participation. And first on our agenda is Zay Banks.
Thank y'all for having me. Well, I'm not going to be long. I believe, seriously. I just want to come and let the record show that we are very thankful on behalf of Melissa, Miles, and Anthony Parks and the entire Parks family and the class of 2016. We want to thank each board member, each person in the school system, Dr. Light, Dr. Gumby, each person that helped in your showing your kindness and your generosity for the homegoing ceremony for Austin Parks. We really appreciate it. It was a great service. Not only did it reflect the generosity of the school system, but it also reflected the generosity of the community as well. So I just want to thank y'all, and y'all give them a round of applause. I just want the record to show that we really are appreciative, and thank you.
Thank you. Next we have John Delaney.
Thank you guys so much for having me as well. I have just the documentation of some of the things that I'm going to say. I've made you a copy as well. If you just want to pass these around, Ms. Freeman, that would be wonderful.
Oh, sure.
Let me hold on to that one. I'm sorry. This will just give you a little bit to reference. First of all, I want to thank the Board of Education for what you guys do. I'm very fortunate as a member of the community and as a leader in the community that I have a good relationship with pretty much everybody on the board, and the only person I had any strife with is Mr. Fogarty because he paddled me in elementary school. So we're just going to leave it right there. And look what became of it. It worked. I went to Dr. Light last week, and I know it was brought up in your retreat, about the prospect of possibly purchasing the old high school. And without having the opportunity to share my heartbeat behind it, I wanted to make sure that I at least gave you an option to reconsider what you came back with, and I'll give you the reasoning. This is the only time I'm going to do this. Regardless of what you guys decide, it's not going to change if we love you or we're behind you. I just want you to know some of the reasoning behind us wanting to purchase the building versus lease the building. So we'll just go through. I want you first of all to understand, we, although are a church in Lincoln County, this is not about a church doing what we're trying to do. In fact, if it were just about our church, the offer that you guys would possibly consider would be more beneficial than what we're trying to do. It is actually about a community partnership with several organizations, and I wanted to highlight those first and foremost. The heartbeat behind wanting to purchase this building at all, because I've been approached several times over the last couple of years about possibly making the offer, but it wasn't until Family Connections had nowhere to meet that it became very important to me. And for those of you who don't know what Family Connections does for what you do, Pastor Duragus Colors is here and will be more than happy, I'm sure, to let you know. But we impact in the after-school program somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 70 students every week. And Faith Community Church is trying to partner with Family Connections to give them a rent-free environment to continue after school. And we are also going to budget meals as they are currently doing. We're going to resource volunteers. So this is the primary reason that the building is going to be used with our plan and our proposal is for Family Connections to. For those of you who don't know, we had a grant with VHS that we lost. That was $150,000 that we lost. Family Connections is operating on a $50,000 a year budget now. And that's it. And that includes all personnel, any programming. So we want to see, I can't let the kids that we've been impacting, and even Dr. Light made a presentation at a collaborative meeting for Family Connections about the advantages of what after-school program is doing for the education of our students. And that is a major reason why we are hitting the levels that we are with our education system, is because we're tutoring and we're working with these students and we're feeding students. We do blessing bags for kids who don't have food at home. So there's a lot that goes into that. So that's the primary thing. We also want to open a daycare. As we know, Lincoln County is struggling with daycare. Every daycare in Lincoln County has a waiting list. Most of them are over a year. And we are hoping to see growth in our city, and I don't see that happening if we don't offer families that are educated, that are wanting to move into the CSRA. If we don't have places for their kids to receive daycare, I don't see our community growing in that area, and that's a major part as well. We've already opened an art school. For those of you who don't know, we have opened a music school. We are going to continue to let the music school operate with or without this facility, but it would go a long way in helping our art school. We want to create not only the art school where we're doing music and art and poetry, but we also want to give a performing arts center to the city that we would love the city to partner with us to continue to use. For those of you who maybe went to see the play last year that actually Zay had to step in and rescue, you saw the community come together in a big way to support that endeavor, and we want to see things like that continue through the remodel of the old auditorium. We're going to open a coffee shop, which is something we actually are opening this weekend, again, regardless of this decision. So this isn't something we're proposing, this is something we're doing. But it sure would help to open that business up where we have space to be able to do it and to offer it to the city. We also want to propose that East Georgia would have an option in the contract to go rent-free into that facility. If you need classrooms, we would be willing to put that in the contract, that they would have a rent-free option to use those spaces. I don't know if we're lacking spaces, but we do want to partner with East Georgia to give them space. And then we would love to continue to let your current usages of the building continue to operate as is. We have no issues with Friday night parking. We have no issues with class reunions coming in to do events. We want you to continue to get to do what you do. We also looked and we saw that there was a census taken, if you have never seen this, that we got hold of May the 14th, 2018. From 2010 to 2017, we lost 147 people between the ages of 25 and 50. The projection is that we're going to lose 393 by the year 2020. In the education system alone, we lost 204 students from 2010 to 2017, up to 18 years old, and that projection is going to go up to 212. Who are we losing? We're losing the families that we're not creating services for in our city. That's what we're trying to do, is create a conducive environment for families to move in that have just that, families, kids. So that's a big part of what we're doing. I know the lease has been discussed. Here's why we think that is not beneficial for us nor the Board of Education. Number one.
John, just one sec. I should have made this note for our public comment section. It's by our guidelines. Should be only 3 minutes.
Okay, I didn't know that. I apologize.
And so, if you would,
I'll wrap
if you
it
could,
up.
like, just kind of wrap it
Yes,
up
sir.
for a minute.
Absolutely.
It,
Is that the liability of the remodel, according to your own numbers, are around $1.1 million. And even if you take out the architectural fees, it goes down to $775,000. It's hard for any company not only to come in and remodel when you don't own it, but we couldn't get the financing for it because we don't have the deed to the building. Also, we wouldn't expect the city to pay back our remodel. That just wouldn't be fair to anybody. We want to see the building come to use, so we want to see it used, not just for a church. I want to make sure that's clear, but for the community. And I have here a complete stack of school buildings throughout the state of Georgia over the last 10 years and some out of state. 3 of these are Richmond County, Warren County, one in Jackson County that were sold to churches, or one was an individual in Lincoln County. So this shows you kind of a little bit of a history of what's happened in our city. And again, you can see why we would want to remodel an existing building as a church. You can see the economic development benefits of childcare and the economic benefits of a successful church in the city, what it does for tax revenue. So this just gives you a little bit. But we want to, we hope to partner with Lincoln County School System, and we would be willing to sell back, give you first option, and not make a penny after the remodel if we ever decided to leave it. We're not going to develop it. We're not trying to make money. We would love for you to have the option to take it back if you need it back. That's both. We're limited in Lincoln County on what we can do to develop. So thank you for your time, and I would just ask that you consider that.
Thank you.
we also have Clay Turner, or you have more to add?
Yeah, I'll be real brief.
Okay.
I think it took a few of my 3 minutes.
Piece I
But what I want to do is, first of all, I want to thank the board, first off, for even being forward thinking and trying to think of ways outside the box that we can handle old assets like this school. So I do commend you for at least being open to alternative options, so we've got to figure something out. And I'm coming this, obviously I'm a member of Faith Community Church, but my thoughts and comments are solely based on the real estate side. And that's all my thoughts and comments are. And I'm approaching it as how far down the road does the Board of Education want to go to being a commercial developer, is kind of my thoughts. You know, with a lease, you have a couple different ways you can do it. And one is a standard lease, whereas there would be some sort of TI allowance that the developer would offer, or tenant improvement allowance that the developer would offer to a prospective tenant to entice them into the building. You know, most of the times that's the responsibility of the landlord to build out the space. So we know we have estimates on the building already, and that seems really risky for the Board of Education to, number one, fund that and take that on. Then you're more tied to our success as an investor, more so than focusing on the Board of Education duties that you have. So that's one thing. The other would be the thought process of doing some sort of abated rent, by where the tenant comes in and builds out the building themselves and has some sort of abated rent period to offset their capital improvements in the building. But then that, I would still wonder, or ask the board to consider what the long-term benefit to the board might be. You know, if we're talking, you know, large numbers of improvements that invested on the tenant side, then you'd probably be looking at long-term abatement. You know, so we're talking 10, 15 years of rent abatement to even match the capital improvements into the building. So I wonder what the long-term prospect is for the Board of Education in that. And even at that point, the board is more so tied to our success at that point if they have to step in and take over a failed project, if you follow where I'm saying. I mean, if there's a $800,000 to $1 million investment in a building and the lease does not work out, the board might be in a position where 6 months, 6 years from now, they may have to step in and take over that property again. So it's a lot of uncertainty for the board. So to echo what John had said, I would ask that you look at what some of the other communities have done, like with Sue Reynolds, some of these other schools that are in that packet, and consider the totality of the proposal. Obviously, we don't have a formal proposal, but the idea that the usage of the building, preserving the historical integrity of the building, the ability for the Board of Education to ever take back title to the property if that was something that was important to the board down the road. And so we're mindful of all of those things. So I'd be happy to discuss, the ins and outs of what would be realistic to expect in a lease agreement, back and forth, pros and cons to either side with anybody that wants to. But that's all I had to add, and so I would just ask that you take that under consideration.
Thank you. And I'm sure all of you know, it's just as it is on our public comments agenda, there's no action that the board can take on any of this. And I suggest that you get with Dr. Light over the next month and for further discussion, that we had this on the agenda for next month.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on this, but according to the law, we have the option of amending the agenda and putting it on so that we can talk about real estate in an executive session. Am I correct? If we get through with our attorney?
Yes. We can talk, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
So,
That's all.
someone making that.
Oh, I make a motion that we amend the agenda to talk about real estate.
You have a second? Have a second by Mr. Fogel. All in favor? Okay. The agenda's been amended, so in executive session, we will be discussing real estate also. Okay, thank you. All right, next on our agenda is financials. Ms. Buffer.
Okay, the first one. Our links are not working, so give us a minute to scroll down. Keep coming down. This is all focus. That's all those FCC ones. Well, there you go. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the first one we got is the month of July. We started this year out July 1st, and with 8.33% of the fiscal year complete, we now have collected about 6% of our revenues. That's normal for this time of year. We do have our QBE money coming in as it should be, but the rest of our revenues are a little bit slower. Tax bills haven't gone out. I think we did see in the paper where they're about to send out the notices where the property was reassessed. So hopefully those will get out soon. On our expenditures.
While you have the QBE there,
Mhm.
that QBE number is based on the end of the year FTE, is that correct?
That QBE number is based on a formula that the financial review prepares, and when they do the state of Georgia budget, they do an estimate of the QBE based on the October QBE and the prior year's October and March. So it's a complicated formula, a blended formula that they come up with. And when they pass the budget, they have put what they estimate our QBE will be on, our FTE, excuse me, will be on there. And that's based on the student count. That's the FTE count. And so that's what it will be unless it changes in the midterm. But that is the current year's QBE, yes.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if our student count goes up this year, that doesn't change until?
It can go up in the mid-year, yes. They will do an adjustment.
So
And
mid-year being January?
usually it's about March before they pass the mid-year budget, and then it's about April before we see that in our actual
Okay.
collections. but it is possible that it can go. Now, there's no guarantee, that's up to the state and, you know, passing that mid-year, but I only know of 1 year that they did not do that, so that's pretty much accepted. If your FTE count goes up, they recompute the formula, and you would get more.
Thanks.
All right, on the expenditure side, again, with 8.33%, we spent 7.99%. So we are right at where we should be with our expenditures. You'll notice some of those are over slightly over the 8.33. That's because a lot of our software and our licensing comes in right at the beginning of the year. We have to pay those up front, and then that's for the whole year. So it looks a little bit over the first few months of the year, but everything is in line. On our balance sheet, we've got $2.6 million in cash in the bank, and our fund balance is 1.83. And the next sheet just shows the difference in the fund equity for the current month. We went from 2.1 to 1.83 million. All right, the next 4 sheets are, and again, this is still not our final of the 2018, but this is getting a little bit closer to our final. Our year ends in June, and so this would be the year end, June 30th, 2018. So you can see on our revenues, we're at 102.66%. We collected a little more than I budgeted. On our expenditures, come on down to expenditures, we're at 96.21%. Down one more page. So we were, you know, as I've told y'all many times before, conservative on our expenditures, underestimating on our revenues to make sure we got everything covered that we needed to. So we ended up the year with the 2.1 million. Okay, we come on to SPLOST collections now. One more. All right, on our SPLOST collections, you can see we collected $58,254.68. As last year, because our SPLOST is going down a little bit, we budgeted $50,000, so we are in good shape for that first month of our SPLOST collections. And on the next page, you'll see we have $348,484 in the balance for the SPLOST, and then come down the bond, $611,392.49. So we've got a total of $959,877 to go towards our October bond payment and working on our April one. On our capital project, on our capital projects, I took off all the ones that were completed, so it looks a little blank here, but we still are working on the tile in the teacher workroom. I'm guessing we still have something going with the high school, the old high school concession. I left that on there. We don't have an amount on that. And so we have $76,658 available for any other projects that we have come up during the year.
The elementary, excuse me, the elementary tile in the teacher workroom is completed.
Okay.
I don't know why the billing is late, and I'm not going to complain to them to please send us a bill. I know they will. But that has been completed, and that is an operational teacher workroom right now.
Okay, good.
Any questions on our finances, Ms. Buffett? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you, Ms. Buffett.
Yes, sir.
Next on the agenda is a non-resident enrollment request.
In front of the board, you can see the letter that was submitted. There's a family that Georgia Power moved north from southern Georgia, Swainsboro to be exact. And Mrs. Arthur did the research on this and found that the student had a very good discipline record, had a good report cards, etc. And they thought they were moving into Lincoln County. Unfortunately, they moved just on the wrong side of the bridge in Amity and still wanted to come to Lincoln County. So they have requested to come to Lincoln County, and we wanted to bring it forward to the board and let the board know so that they could approve it and there wouldn't be any question of him being here. We do get FTE for students that are here with us.
We have a motion by Ms. Freeman to accept this request. Have a second by Mr. Cox. All in favor? Thank you. Next on the agenda is a CTAE presentation.
I didn't see you when I
So you
looked
didn't
up.
see
I
me
thought you
hiding.
left.
I was surprised I'm not blistered or watching softball. But thank the board for letting me come tonight and do a quick presentation over CTAE, kind of where we have been this past year, where we currently are with financials, and then where we plan to go in the future. I've given you a handout. The magazine that I have here is something that I get at the conference every year, so it's something for you to look at. However, I will let you know that it's from 2017, so it's a little behind. But this is my information. We're trying really hard to push the Twitter, using social media as an outlet to stay informed with students. So those are my two accounts that I have for my work-based learning students, and then also for my classroom LCTV news. But I will say, our state superintendent said that those students who complete a CTAE pathway, 96% of them graduate. And actually, if we were to look at Lincoln County, it's more like 98%. So being involved in CTAE really does help a student make sure they kind of get plugged in the pathway that they want to go towards, and hopefully we'll continue that post-secondary avenue. So I just want to kind of bring you where we are, what we look like, and I have a clip of our master schedule. And on here you'll notice that teachers, two of my teachers each semester teaches a middle school course. Mr. Holden and Mr. Connors teach a connections class for 7th graders, and Mr. McGill is doing a basic ag class. Students who are enrolled in this for middle school get a high school credit for basic ag, so that's a big thing, because students who are interested in dual enrollment, they need to have a high school class on their transcript in order to be eligible for that. So as freshmen, they can do dual enrollment as long as they have done the basic ag or the algebra. Yes, so that's another one. So, you know, for a system this small, I think we do offer a lot of things for our students. Ms. McKinney is actually teaching 2 CNA classes this semester, which is huge. Her numbers have really doubled. So this is the first time we've done this. She'll be taking about 30 students to get their CNA, and they'll test in December before they get out for the Christmas break. So that's our master schedule at a quick view. These are our sequence of classes. So in CTAE world, you have to complete a pathway. Okay, and ideally they complete the pathway. We'll talk about end of pathway assessments, but it should be geared to what they want to do after they graduate. It's kind of been up in the air as to whether or not they're going to require students to complete a pathway. We strongly encourage students to complete a pathway, and I'm going to show you something in just a minute that shows you that students really are taking advantage of this. We've done a really good job making sure they kind of stay in track. There's a sequence to all these classes, and kind of this is the breakdown of what we plan to offer. And if you look at systems around us, we really do offer a lot for our students, considering. So you have that handout in your packet. I will say, if you'll go back one, work-based learning is ideally a culminating activity the students are involved in. I currently have 26 work-based students enrolled in the program, which is the largest number I've ever had, which is a good problem to have. And I'll talk about how that works in just a minute. So completing a pathway, you can click on, I think I put some transitions in here that we would like for students in 9th and 10th grade to take a foundation course. And then by the time they are 10th, 11th, they take their 2nd level course. And then ideally when they're junior seniors, they're taking the 3rd level course and they take the end of pathway assessment. So each one of our classes have an end of pathway assessment. But what I thought was interesting, I like to do a little bit of just kind of where we are with things. This information shows you kind of what segments we offered in 2017, 2018, and what we're currently offering. And these are the number of students. So in this 2017, we had 110 students that only focused on completing one pathway. Okay, and then we have one that actually completed 4. So a lot of times students they think they can't complete several of them, but they actually can. This year, we have less segments, but there's more kids they're doing multiple pathways. In fact, this number 1 that's completing 5, that means he's He's completing 2 and working on 3 others. He's taking an entry-level class in all those areas. I guess he knows exactly what he wants to do, but hopefully by the time he graduates in May, he'll have a good plan. So, but this is how we ended the year last year with our end of pathway assessments. I know I probably gave a little too much information, but I kind of think it's important to see some pathways we stopped and some things we didn't have enough to complete the pathway, and that kind of shows you all that information. Like for instance, under the culinary arts, I really need to change this to food science because we dropped culinary arts, just focused on food science. She didn't have any pathway completers because it was the first time trying to complete that pathway, but she's done extremely well since then. Another thing that we've seen an improvement is our plant and landscape system. He made a huge jump from 50% to 80%, and is doing quite well with the animal system pathway in the pathway assessment. So very pleased. I will say that we know there's some areas that need to be worked on. Go back a little more. 2 of these, and just to put things in educational terms, 2 of these pathways are a state developed in the pathway assessment. One of them being engineering, the other one is the plant and landscape. So we kind of have the end. It's not something that we have to pull from industry or some other, testing agency from across the country. So we should be successful with these because they're made in-house and done in-house. The other ones, that's why we're still trying to learn exactly what they expect from the test. And I know we shouldn't teach the test. And I think my teachers do an excellent job making sure they are teaching a skill to these students. But there are workshops that we're going to be going to kind of help match our standards with the testing and what they expect from that. Okay, so where are we with money? This is kind of what we do in May. I have to do grants for all of these things. And it's up to whether or not our QBE matches. We get FTE funding based on that. I will say that several of these aren't even fully funded. Like for instance, I have 2 teachers that do extended day. They don't get fully funded for their extended day. That's roughly about 20 hours a month. The extended year, that helps pay some of my salary for the summer. Apprenticeship is the work-based learning grant that we get. We get a 1/4 grant, which only is really requiring me to have 28 students. Now there's a push to make it where work-based learning people are fully funded as a entity. Now that's talk, and that's in the work-based learning world. We'd like for that to happen, but funding is an issue. Supervision, that's for the CTA director position, and then I have Mr. McGill gets the extended day and extended year. He gets extended year that requires him to work 40 extra days in the year. So he roughly does about 20 during the summer, and then 20 throughout the year working on Saturdays, taking the kids to different events. The next column is the federal grants that we apply for. So the program improvement, that actually has increased just a little bit. The professional development is those things that we get to go to and it doesn't cost us anything other than the travel, which is based on our size. And I think it's roughly around $1,000 we pay, which is a really good thing. We're part of a consortium. And then Perkins Plus is what we use for our end of pathway assessments. So like Ms. McKinney's CNA test is right at $115 per student. So it can get very expensive. So we pay for that, and we pay for any other handbooks and workbooks and things like that that kind of help the students be successful. One thing I don't think I've ever mentioned when I presented to the board are the core indicators, and I've included that in your packet. Also included a copy of how we go, because this is kind of how they grade us. And the interesting thing to me is we are a whole picture. We rely on our English and math to give us good scores. And I was proud to say that this last year we had no need for any kind of improvement plan. So we're right at the level with the state, what the state expects. We're even above in some cases. So non-traditional, of course, are having girls or guys in non-traditional kind of roles or programs. Okay. And then where are we now? What the plans are for this year? In your packet also is a new push, and Dr. Light mentioned this at our back to school session with the teachers. They are pushing to have a new career ready seal. Have no idea what that even looks like yet, but it's out there, and I'm not sure who's going to pay for it, how we're going to keep track of it, but I'm glad to see that it's there so that the students who are completing a pathway can have something on their diploma that says that they are each of these areas. Okay, that's the plan there. And then a couple things we started a few years ago is Job Shadowing Day, and so I say to you as leaders of the community that if you know students who may be interested in this is an opportunity for them to miss a day of school. There are questions they have to answer that go along with their experience, but they go and shadow someone they may be interested in whatever career they may be interested in. I've had some success rate with this. I had a couple of kids work at the jail last year, and they realized wasn't what they wanted to do. So it can be a good thing. It also can say, yes, this is a confirmation that I want to do this for sure. So that's 2 opportunities we have throughout the year for students to sign up for that. And then the last thing, is kind of where we are, last 2 things, where we are with different areas. We had several kids participate with the FCCLA FFA camp. Ms. Pilkington is highly active in FCCLA. She's a region leader, advisor. She's done great. We have a state historian, Matthew Penrose, a junior, and he is eager and he's active, and they're doing really great things. Our FFA is competing at the National Convention in October. Our graduate, Chandler Collier, will be competing at that level. So he graduated last year, but they'll be going to represent. I'm not sure why FFA kind of delays theirs. Most everybody else's happens during the summer. HOSA had a little interesting situation happen to them. They were kind of told they weren't going to continue, and then they were told, yes, we're going to continue. I'm not sure they have their act together at the state level, but Ms. McKinney does HOSA, and if the kids want to go, she's going to take them. If they want to go and compete at that level, she does not get any kind of extended day for doing that. She just wants to do it because it's good for the kids. But she is having 3 blood drives this year, and those are the dates for that. Skills USA competes. This is their 2 biggies that they'll be preparing for. I put in one of my slides, I don't know if Mr. Holden's grill that he recently did. Did y'all notice that? Yeah. So he's done really, yeah.
It is. Excellent.
So we had the opportunity to use that at pre-planning. And then what I need for you guys is participation with my advisory meeting. I'll be holding 2 meetings, and federal Perkins guidelines tell me that I need to have 2 a year. So those are my dates. I would love for anyone who is interested in finding out more about CTAE to participate. I provided a coaster for you for the sublimation machine, compliments the CTA department. So you come December, I may have another prize for you. That's one way to get participation, right? Give them something or feed them. We do both. And then the last thing that we do have coming up is the College and Career Fair. This was a huge success last year. We had 20 plus participants. We hope to even have even more than that. Those are our times. I included a sign-up sheet if any of you are interested in coming and representing your business. If you want to put the flyer in your place of business, you can do that. But we'd love to have anybody and everybody come. I think it's a great way for the kids to see what is offered in our community, and also to see what jobs are out there that may not be something they've even thought about. And we try to get everyone through. We focus on our seniors and then juniors, and then the underclassmen get a chance to come as well.
Name some of your participants from that last year.
You would ask.
Of course. George Power.
Yes, I can't. And
Rail
came.
ENC.
It's left me. Sorry.
You put it all
I
together.
know. Yes. So anyway, if anybody knows of folks that would like to come and participate, there is a link on the high school website so that you can click there and sign up and make it really user-friendly. We'll be sending out information closer to that time, so that's not until February. And we like to do February because that is CTAE month. So you kind of focus on CTAE. There's a lot of things going on that month at school. So I appreciate the time letting me come and talk about our program. I'm very fortunate to work with some very hardworking people. They come in early, they stay late, and they love what they do, and they love teaching kids. So thank you for coming.
Question. I know how ag is funded, and that's why the teacher gets, because they have good people up there pulling for them. So ag gets funded automatically with their extended day and all of this. But I'm concerned, let me ask you, how many of our CTA teachers are getting extended day Because I thought the rationale was that if they had a club, that's what qualified them for extended day. Do all our CTA teachers have a club?
The teachers who want to get extended day, get extended day.
Okay.
Okay, there's additional paperwork and there's documentation that has to go along with that. So my 2 teachers that want to get extended day are getting it, now it's not fully funded. We only get,
That's what,
Probably-
that's the part that
Right.
I'm trying to do
Right.
with now. Why don't we fully fund extended day?
Well, first of all, the state
I'm
doesn't
just
fully
messing.
fund it, so it would have to come out of our funds. And we have 2 that are doing it that are interested. If more are interested, then they need to come to us, or come to me first, obviously, and we'll discuss what they're gonna do with that extended day, and I'll try and justify it if we need it.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at all the activities that they have planned and the traveling, and that gets cumbersome, and it's, you know, so I think if they're working weekends and long hours, they should be compensated. Oh, thank you, Miss.
thank you.
Thank you.
Jordan.
All right.
Next on the agenda is a contract for CSRA RESA.
Annually, we have to submit a payment to be part of CSRA RESA. This is an annual event. CSRA helps us with professional development. They help us with working on some of our technology equipment. They do quite a bit for us, and I would strongly recommend that we continue this. It is a small amount for the advantages that we get.
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we pay membership dues to RESA.
We have a motion by Ms. Freeman. We have a second by Mr. Madison. All in favor? Unanimous. All right, next is purchase of a bus.
In the middle of June, I believe it was June 13, 15, somewhere in that range, the state sent us money to be used to purchase an additional bus. That's very unusual. In fact, when Ms. Bufford received the notification, she come in and said, "What is this?" Because I don't know what it is. We start talking about it and reading about it. It was money to purchase a bus. Obviously, if you receive it on June 15th, you're not going to be able to purchase a bus by June 30th. We have put it together on what we want of the bus. It is an additional propane bus. It's a 72 passenger. No, the state money does not pay for all of it, but it does pay for quite a bit of it. And we are recommending to purchase a 72 passenger Bluebird propane bus for $101,037.75. And if you scroll down, you will see the particulars that are on this particular item, which is a camera and a few other, in my opinion, necessary items to be on the bus. And Mr. Scott went through this with a very fine-tooth comb, trying to make it a very good purchase, and I think he did a good job with it.
Mr. Chair, one question, just quickly, what's the difference amount that we pay? I know the check was like 77,000 or something.
Do you remember that, Ms. Bufford?
It's
I don't
on the
remember the
sheet.
exact amount, but
It's
it's
$77,092.
$92. I think, wait a minute, that's the bus bid price. I don't remember.
76,322 or something.
I'm sorry?
320?
76,322, something
It was
like
an
that.
odd
That's off the
number.
top of my head. I
It
don't
was an
know.
odd number.
Okay, so, okay,
And another thing,
I got it.
this is, I mean, this was accounted for when we did, but
Right.
as part of
It
our
was
budget
budgeted, yes,
also.
it was absolutely budgeted.
Mr. Chair, if there is no, I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of this bus.
We have a motion to approve the purchase of the bus at the given price. We have a second by Mr. Fogarty. All in favor? All opposed?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's my motion. I'm
Unanimous.
sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
All right, we have 3 policies for review.
We have 3 policies in front of us for review. One of them is emergency drills. In order to ensure safety of students and school personnel, safety school plans shall be developed, implemented, and annually updated by every public school in accordance with OCGA 1185, and administrative procedures on this subject. Emergency drills shall be conducted according to the Office of Insurance and Fire and Safety Commission and administrative procedures. That is a requirement. It's a no-brainer. We have to do it. We do have a plan that is in my office, Dr. E's office. The principals have one, and we meet with police and fire annually to discuss any possible changes or adjustments that need to be made. So we do that. The next one is emergency closings. It says the superintendent is empowered to close schools in a situation, bless you, which threatens the safety or health of students and staff in accordance with OCGA 20-2-168. Such situations include an emergency disaster, act of God, civil disturbance, or shortage of vital or curricular material, supplies, or fuel. Makeup days shall be approved by the board. I would recommend that we leave that in place so that you guys don't have to come together for a meeting at 4 o'clock in the morning for snow. So we'll leave that one there if that's okay. The next one down is professional personnel resignation. I won't read it as long as it is, but it requires that person that is wishing to terminate their employment to do it in writing, and they should do it with no less than 30 days prior to the desired date. And it also says employees who fail to honor the contract of employment will be referred to the Professional Standards Commission for appropriate action. And I recommend that stays in place. So just leave those for review.
Okay.
Then we have superintendent's reports and information.
Real simple. I think that the opening has been fairly smooth. None of them are ever perfect, but I think it's been fairly smooth, and that is because of our great teachers and our wonderful principals who do a super job and keep things rolling. The kids have been very good this year. I was at the elementary on the first day. I saw one student that was upset and saw about 6 criers, but they were parents. So I don't know if they were crying tears of joy, but they were crying that the kids were going back. So that went very well. Appreciate everybody that got involved to help, and that went great. If you haven't seen a girls softball game yet, you need to catch one. They are winning extremely. They won tonight 17-9, is that correct? 17-9. They're winning, and not that you don't want to see them at any time, but it's even more fun when they're winning. So we're going to congratulate them, and of course Friday is a football game here against Ebbington. That's all I have.
All right, need a motion to go into executive session? Motion by Mr. Bowman, second by Mr. Cox. What's on that little trip?
I got it.
Break, please.
I had one of these I was looking at.
There's several in here.
Okay, I'm gonna look for it just to make
I knew I was going to
I'll give you my
Jamie, I just came up with my argument. Some people pay $85,000 for an Audi. And it's also I did.
We're calling the meeting back to order. Since we changed our agenda and added, due to our public participation, we added some real estate items to the executive session. I just want to give you just a synopsis of our discussion. The board as a whole does not feel it is good for our school system to sell any property that we have, any part of the property that we have over there. Mr. Cox wanted to give a brief kind of overall explanation.
Just to let you know our feelings and our concerns as far as the board's concerned. The building, selling the actual high school building, which sits right in the middle of 24 acres, we cannot just sell you the building. We have to put the building out to the highest bidder. And our concern is that we put the building out to the highest bidder and you not be the highest bidder and the highest bidder may be a detention center, who knows what. And then we have put the school system in jeopardy for that property, for the bus shop, for the football field, for everything involved in that property. Now, I think it would shed a little different light on it if we were just able to just say, hey, we're gonna sell Faith Community the property. I think it shed a little different light on it. But the fact that we have to put it out for bids and open it up to anybody and everybody, not just Lincoln County, statewide, you know, multi-state, whatever. But we just can't just sell it directly to you. And it concerns us that we could really jeopardize ourselves by putting it out there, trying to sell it to you and not be able to sell it to you. Somebody else take it and we'd be in serious jeopardy. I do think there are options out there as far as funding for a long-term lease. I think there are leases. That is something that we would entertain. We have discussed the fact that you take the building for a 15-year lease, you know, we would have to put a cap on the amount of money that we would be willing to pay back, but we would be willing to pay back, you know, just say, throwing a number out there, a couple $100,000. Because in the event that we need the building 10 to 15 years down the road, if we're fixing to put up a $14-15 million school system, a couple $100,000 to pay back is not really something that we would, you know, for lack of better words, lose sleep over. We wouldn't want it to, you know, we would be willing to pay the money back. But that is our concern. And we wanted to let y'all know something tonight, and that is that we have a concern with the fact that we can't just sell the building to you. And when we put it out there to everybody, we don't know who's gonna buy it. And so that's a concern of ours.
Next on our agenda is personnel items. It's been recommended by the superintendent, and I make a motion that we hire Ms. Lisa Creech as a pre-K teacher for the elementary school. I have a second by Mr. Bodie. All in favor? Unanimous? It is recommended by the superintendent, and I make a motion that we hire, or that we approve Ms. Connie Hogan as a substitute teacher for the 2018-2019 school year.
So,
I have a second by Ms. Freeman. All in favor? Unanimous? It is recommended by the superintendent, and I make a motion that we accept the resignation of Lindsay Barnett effective July 31st. I have a second by Mr. Bodie. All in favor? Unanimous? It is recommended by the superintendent, and I make a motion that we transfer Ms. Hannah Carmichael from the elementary school parapro position to the high school secretary position.
so,
Second by Ms. Freeman. All in favor? Unanimous? It is recommended that we hire Ms. Lori Spoon as a parapro at the elementary school. Second by Mr. Fogarty. All in favor? Unanimous? It is recommended that we extend the hours of our part-time nurse, Ms. Beth Talbert, from 2 to 4 hours a day. And I make that motion. And a second by Mr. Madison. All in favor? Unanimous? It is recommended by the superintendent that we accept the resignation of Ms. Larissa McCord and approve her for the substitute bus driver list. And I make that motion. We have a second by Mr. Madison. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Vice Chair, for the assistance. Do we have any further discussion?
a motion we adjourn.
I have a motion by Ms. Freeman, we adjourn. A second by Mr. Cox. Thank you.